Hello and welcome back to the deep end of the pool. If you are listening to this, you're ready to peel back another layer of the universe. And honestly, today's deep dive is, well, it's a total vibe. We are slowing things all the way down.
We certainly are. It is intimate, it's specific, and yet it manages to tackle some of the absolute biggest questions we face as human beings. It's about pain, it's about fear, and oddly enough, it is about apricots.
Huh. We are definitely going to get to the apricots. But right now, I want everyone to just settle in. Imagine we are just sitting on a porch somewhere. Maybe there is a little rain falling outside, a pattern against the roof. We've got some coffee, maybe a blanket, and we are cracking open a dusty old book that happens to contain the secrets of the universe.
That is the perfect energy for this.
Today we are looking at session 344 from the early sessions, book 8 of the Seth material.
Recorded on a Wednesday evening, June 7, 1967.
1967. Let's set the context, because, context is everything. The summer of love was kicking off. The world was exploding with color, psychedelic music, protests, huge cultural shifts. But in Elmira, New York, inside an apartment on Water Street, Jane Roberts, the medium for Seth and her husband Rob, were dealing with something incredibly mundane. A stiff neck.
A very, very stiff neck.
Before we get into the neck, and trust me, we are going to get deep into the neck. I need to get the housekeeping out of the way. Just a reminder to everyone listening, this deep dive is distributed free of charge on all major platforms for educational purposes. We are here to learn, to explore, and to share. We aren't selling a cure, we are exploring a philosophy.
And we are, as always, incredibly grateful to the source of this wisdom. All credit for the material we are discussing today goes to the Seth material and the publisher, New Awareness Network.
Absolutely. We are just the guides. They provided the map. If you dig what we're talking about today, and I really have a feeling you need to go to the source, we explicitly encourage you to study the Seth material books yourself. Go visit the New Awareness Network website and bookstore. You can find them at sethcenter.com/the-sessions. Go fill your cart. You won't regret it.
It is a total treasure trove. Reading the raw sessions is a completely different experience from hearing us talk about them.
Okay, so let's set the scene. June 7, 1967. Jane Roberts, or Ruburt, as Seth calls her, is in pain. She has got this awful stiff neck. Her husband, Rob, who Seth calls Joseph, is frustrated. They've actually just come back from a chiropractor.
Right. And it's such a mundane starting point, isn't it? A stiff neck. I mean, we have all had one. You sleep wrong or you're stressed, and suddenly you just can't turn your head.
Yeah, it's the worst.
It feels purely mechanical. It feels like a thing that just happened to you out of nowhere. But in the Seth framework, nothing is ever just physical.
That is the hook for today. We are going to explore how a trip to the chiropractor turns into a profound lesson on fear, career anxiety, and the absolute danger of thinking your current problems are going to last forever. Our mission today is to really understand how physical symptoms, specifically immobility, mirror our psychological states.
And specifically, the fear of making mistakes.
Right. So let's unpack this, the diagnosis. The physical situation is really tense. Lode is actually pretty annoyed. Before the session even starts, he speaks aloud to Seth, which is something he didn't always do, right?
No. Usually he would wait for Jean to fully go into trance.
Yeah.
But here, before the session even properly begins, he is basically demanding straight answers. He says, I want straight answers to my questions about Jane's symptoms. You can just hear the exhaustion in his voice. He's done with the riddles.
He wants a mechanic, not a philosopher.
Exactly. He wants to know why his wife is hurting. And Seth does not beat around the bush.
He never does.
No. Seth comes through and immediately diagnoses the situation. He says, the personality has felt as if it were held in bounds, tied, lacking the opportunity for action.
Held in bounds, that is such a visceral way to describe a stiff neck. It's like being physically restrained. It is not just, oh, I pulled a muscle. It is, I am tied up.
Yes. And Seth connects this physical restraint immediately to a psychological error. This is the core of the deep dive today, so I want you to really pay attention to this mechanism. It is the projection trap.
The projection trap. Break that down for us, because I feel like I fall into this trap about 3 times a week.
I think we all do. Well, Jane was going through a rough patch. Financially, things were tight. She was worried about her career. She was looking for extra work. It was a difficult moment. But the error she made was projecting that moment into the future.
Ah, I see. So she took right now is hard and turned it into it will be hard forever.
Precisely. Seth says what he accepted as a temporary condition he fears to be a permanent one. He then projected a present situation into the future, which to some extent resulted in a lack of mobility.
That hits so hard. I think we all do that. You have a bad week at work, or you break up with someone, or you're broke, and your brain just whispers to you, this is your life now. This is it. This is the rest of the story.
It is a massive cognitive distortion, but it's a powerful one. By convincing herself that the struggle was permanent, she created a feeling of being completely trapped. I mean, if the future looks exactly like the difficult present, then there is nowhere to go. There is no movement possible.
And if there is no movement possible in your mind,
your body follows suit. Physical rigidity mirrors mental rigidity. A stiff neck is the somatic manifestation of being unable to look around, unable to see options, or unable to move.
it's wild how literal the body can be. It is not a metaphor to the body. It is an instruction. We are stuck. Okay? Freeze the muscles.
Right. And Seth has another layer to this. He talks about the spontaneous self. He mentions that Jane has a remarkably strong spontaneous nature, but she was taught to fear it.
Taught to fear her own spontaneity. That sounds like a recipe for disaster for a creative person.
It really is. When you distrust your spontaneous self, the part of you that wants to jump, play, explore, make a mess, you start accepting restrictions. You clamp down on yourself because you do not trust what you will do if you let go.
You become your own jailer.
Exactly. And Seth says this distrust led to emotional blockages and even difficulties in their intimate life. It's a total system shutdown because the core energy spontaneity is being treated like a criminal.
That is heavy. So she has a stiff neck, she is stressed about money, and she is terrified that if she lets her guard down, she will ruin everything.
Which brings us to the root of the fear. Why was she so afraid of moving?
This involves the publisher, right? Fell?
Yes, Frederick Fell. There was a lot of tension surrounding the publishing of her book. Rob apparently had some very strong negative feelings toward the publisher.
Ra wasn't a fan.
Not at all. And Seth points out that Rob's negative feelings had strong emotional power over Jane. She felt that because Rob disapproved of the publisher, he disapproved of her success. She felt she had made a severe error in allowing the book to be published by him.
Oh, wow. So she achieves this dream, getting a book published, but because the vibes are off with the publisher and her husband, she internalizes it as a mistake.
A severe error. And here's the quote that I think is the centerpiece of this entire session. Seth says, "He who does not move can make no errors."
He who does not move can make no errors. That is it. That is the mantra of the paralyzed perfectionist.
It completely explains the freezing. If acting leads to errors like signing with the wrong publisher, then the safest thing to do is to stop acting, stop moving. If you are a statue, you can't mess up.
But you also can't live.
Exactly. But the subconscious logic is perfectly sound. Movement equals risk of error. Therefore, immobility equals safety.
And this was happening right as she was looking for a job, right?
Yes, and the timing was incredibly cruel. Her book had just arrived in bookstores. This should be a moment of triumph, champagne, parties, celebration. But instead, because of the financial reality, she was out looking for a normal job.
That has to sting. You are an author, you are published, and you're filling out an application for a day job.
To Jane, it felt like total failure. Seth says she felt she shouldn't have to look for work at this specific moment. It felt like the universe was negating her success. And then there was the contract panic.
Oh, the nursery school.
Ah, yes. She signed a contract to work at a nursery school for the coming year. And she completely freaked out.
She treated it like she had signed away her life.
Seth is actually quite funny here. He is doing a major reality check. He basically says, guys, it is a piece of paper. It can be terminated.
I love that. We treat contracts and commitments like they're written in stone by the hand of God, and Seth is like, it's paper, you can quit.
But Jane couldn't see that. She saw it as a prison sentence. She even got a raise at the nursery school, and you know what she called it?
Fun.
Blood money.
Oh, blood money for working at a nursery school.
She viewed it as payment for selling her soul, payment for giving up her time, which should be used for writing. She felt she was being bought off to abandon her true calling.
That is so dramatic, but also, I get it. If you feel like you are betraying your art to pay the rent, the money does feel dirty. It feels like a bribe to give up on your dreams.
But Seth reframes it completely. He argues that the job isn't the problem, the attitude is. If she viewed the job as a temporary experiment, just something to try out, the energy changes. It becomes mobility. It becomes, I am exploring this nursery school thing for a bit.
Yeah.
But because she viewed it as, I failed as a writer, so now I am a nursery school teacher forever, it became a cage.
It all comes back to that forever fear, the inability to see things as temporary.
It does. But Seth digs even deeper. He doesn't just look at the current circumstances. He looks at the family tree, the ancestral echoes.
I love when Seth plays psychiatrist. So where did this fear of employment actually come from?
It's fascinating. He traces it back to her grandfather and her mother.
The grandfather was a salesman, right?
Yes. Seth says her grandfather walked about freely, but he feared working for others. He valued his independence above absolutely all else. He instilled this idea that working for someone else was a form of weakness, a loss of self.
So Jane has this generational voice in her head saying, if you punch a clock, you lose.
Exactly. And then there is the mother. Jane's mother was physically immobile. She had severe arthritis.
Right, I remember reading about that. Jane had a very complex relationship with her mother.
Seth calls it mother identification. Jane relied on an immobile mother as a child. Now, facing her own fears, her body is mimicking that immobility. Seth says it is his fear that sensitizes him again to old issues.
She is reenacting the trauma. She is becoming the immobile mother because she feels helpless, just like her mother was.
And she equates working for others with that exact same helplessness. It is a symbolic knot. Working equals weakness equals immobility equals mother.
And Seth points out the irony of the nursery school job, doesn't he?
He does. Jane thought taking the job was a surrender. But Seth points out that a nursery school job was actually the only kind of job she could tolerate. Why? Because it wasn't a standard corporate office gig. It allowed for some chaos, some movement. It wasn't sitting at a desk from 9 to 5 in a suit.
So her spontaneous self was actually trying to compromise. Okay, we have to work. Let's go play with kids. But her conscious mind was screaming, blood money.
Exactly. The conscious mind was judging what the spontaneous self was trying to navigate.
Okay, so we have the diagnosis. Fear of the future, fear of error, ancestral baggage, all manifesting as a stiff neck. Now, what is the cure? The prescription.
This is where the session gets really fun and practical. Seth doesn't tell her to meditate on the void. He tells her to move.
Physical mobility.
Yes. He prescribes a vacation, physical mobility in space.
Mobility in space. I really like that. It sounds sci-fi, but he just means go somewhere.
Go somewhere. Get in the car. He explicitly calls the automobile a symbol of release and freedom for Jane.
That is so 1960s, isn't it? The open road, the car as absolute freedom.
It is, but it works. He suggests many small trips. It is about proving to the subconscious that you are not stuck. If you can drive to the next town, you are not immobile. If you are not immobile physically, maybe you aren't immobile psychologically.
It's reverse engineering the psyche through the body.
Correct. And he doesn't stop at travel. He goes into the house. He suggests, and I love this, moving the living room furniture.
Seth, the Feng Shui master.
He suggests moving the furniture to a position it hasn't been in since the illness began.
That makes so much sense. If you are sitting in the same chair, looking at the same wall, feeling the same pain, the environment just anchors the symptom.
It anchors the pattern completely. By rearranging the room, you break the visual pattern. You signal to the brain, things are different now.
And he had a specific instruction for the bed, right?
The bed should definitely be north and south now.
North and south, no arguments, just do it.
And then the diet. This is where the specificity really shines. This isn't general, eat your veggies advice. It is chemical alchemy for her specific state.
Lay it on me. What is the Seth diet for a stiff neck?
Okay, avoid fried foods. Avoid tomato juice in the morning.
Why no tomato juice?
Seth says he has been right, avoiding tomato juice in the morning instinctively. He does not need that acidity then. It is aggravating to him.
Listen to your body, folks. If the tomato juice looks bad, do not drink it. What else?
Avoid too much whole milk. Coffee is fine.
Thank goodness. Seth approves the coffee.
And then the good list. Eggplant is good.
Eggplant. Okay. Random. I will take it.
And the magic fruit. The apricot is soothing.
The apricot. The apricot.
There is something so delightful about a disembodied entity traveling through time and space to tell you to eat an apricot.
Huh. It is delightful. But think about the energy of an apricot. It is soft. It is sweet. It is orange, a vibrant color. Compared to the acidity of tomato juice or the heaviness of fried food, an apricot is soothing. It's gentle.
It's gentle. And Jane really needed gentleness. She was being so hard on herself.
Exactly. The diet wasn't just about nutrients. It was about the quality of the substance. Reducing acidity, reducing heaviness, introducing soothing elements.
I love that. So move the bed, drive the car, eat an apricot, unfreeze the system.
But Jane couldn't do this alone. She needed an ally. And that brings us to Rob's role.
Right. Because Rob was part of the problem initially with his attitude toward the publisher. How does he become part of the solution?
Rob asks if he should hypnotize her. Seth says yes, that is safe. But the real work is in the daily atmosphere. Seth tells Rob to maintain a climate of permissiveness.
The climate of permissiveness. That sounds nice.
It is vital. There's this anecdote about the radio. Apparently, Jane was listening to a radio station that was unrestrained and noisy and blatant. Rob hated it. He probably made a face or a comment.
Classic husband and wife stuff. Turn that racket down.
But Jane, in her fragile state, interpreted his dislike as another restraint.
Oh, wow. So he thinks he is just sharing a musical opinion, and she hears, I am controlling what you listen to. I am closing another door.
Exactly. Seth explains that Jane enjoyed that station specifically because it was unrestrained. She was craving that noisy freedom. When Rob shut it down, he reinforced the cage.
So what is the takeaway for relationships here?
When your partner is anxious, feeling trapped, or paralyzed by fear, you have to be overly permissive. You have to back off. You have to let them play the bad music. You have to let them eat the weird food. You have to let them make the mistake.
Because they need to feel that they have agency.
They need to feel free. Seth says Rob needs to let Jane know she has all the freedom she wants.
But just saying it isn't enough, is it?
No.
Yeah.
Seth warns that she needs help to actually believe she has this freedom. She fears Rob will blame her if she exercises freedom and fails financially.
Right. Go ahead. Be free. But if you can't pay the rent next month, it is your fault. That is not real freedom.
Real freedom is, go ahead, be free. And if you fail, I have still got your back. We are still okay. That is the safety net she needed to start moving again.
That is really powerful. It shifts the dynamic from fix your stiff neck to let's create an environment where you feel safe enough to move.
And that is the healing. The stiff neck isn't cured by the chiropractor alone, though Seth says the treatment was good. It is cured by breaking the belief that I am stuck, and if I move, I will be punished.
This session, it starts with a back adjustment and ends with a masterclass on love and psychology.
That is the Seth material for you.
So let's wrap this up. What are the big takeaways for you listening today?
First, listen to your body. Physical stiffness often mirrors mental rigidity or a fear of moving forward. If you are stuck physically, ask yourself where you are stuck mentally.
Second, beware the forever trap. Do not project a temporary struggle like a job search or a tight budget into a permanent future. It is a lie your anxiety tells you.
Third, he who does not move can make no errors. But that is absolutely no way to live. Accept the risk of errors. Errors are better than paralysis.
And fourth, change your environment. Move the couch. Sleep with your head to the north. Eat an apricot. Do something small to signal to your subconscious that the pattern is broken.
And finally, for the partners out there, create a climate of permissiveness. If someone you love is freezing up, warmth and freedom melt the ice. Judgment just freezes it harder.
Beautifully said.
And it really is a profound lesson.
Okay, I have a challenge for you listeners. We call this the spontaneous challenge.
Oh, I like this.
I want you to identify one place in your life where you feel frozen. Maybe it is a creative project. Maybe it is a conversation you need to have. Maybe it is just your literal daily routine.
And then?
Do one small spontaneous thing to break the pattern. Take a different route to work. Buy a weird fruit you have never eaten. Move a chair. Just one small act of mobility in space.
Prove to yourself that you are not a statue.
Exactly. Prove you're not a statue.
I might go move my desk after this recording.
I am definitely going to buy some apricots.
Sounds like a plan.
Once again, we want to thank the New Awareness Network for keeping this material alive. This deep dive was based on Session 344 from the Early Sessions, Book 8.
Please go deeper. Visit sethcenter.com/the early sessions. Buy the books. Read the words in their original context. It changes you.
It really does. And remember, we do this for free, for education, for the love of the game.
And for the love of the apricot.
And for the love of the apricot. All right, friends, stay loose, keep moving. Do not let the fear forever freeze you up today.
We will catch you on the next dive.